पृथिवी शान्तिरन्तरिक्षगं शान्तिर्द्यौः शान्तिर्दिशः शान्तिरवान्तर दिशा शान्तिरग्निः शान्तिर्वायुः शान्तिरादित्यः शान्तिश्चन्द्रमा शान्तिर्नक्षत्राणि शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिर्वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्गौः शान्तिरजा शान्तिरश्वः शान्तिः पुरुषः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिर्ब्राह्मणः शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः शान्तिर्मे अस्तु शान्तिः. May there be peace on earth and in the sky. May there be peace in the water and in all directions. May there be peace in the plants, in the trees, and in animals. May there be peace in the hearts of all beings. May there be peace in everyone and in everything. Sarvetra sukhinas santu, sarve santu niramayaha. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Sarvastaratu durgani sarvo bhadrani pashyatu. Sarvas sadbuddhimapnotu sarvas sarvatra nandatu. May all be happy and healthy. May all see what is good. And may no one experience misery. May all overcome their obstacles and acquire good tendencies. May people everywhere find joy and fulfillment. Let us now spend some time touching the center of peace and joy in our hearts. A good way to begin the practice is to withdraw the scattered energies of the mind and bring them to rest on one point. That point can be our own breathing. Let us therefore practice breathing with awareness. As we breathe in, let us visualize that our body and mind are being filled with love, strength, and compassion. And as we breathe out, let us release all the stress, anxiety, and exhaustion in the body and mind. Let us practice this way for a while. Let us now turn our attention to the region of our heart. Although God is present everywhere and in everyone, the divine presence can be felt most clearly in our hearts. We can meditate in any way we have been taught. To remain focused, we can take the help of a short mental prayer or a mantra or a divine name. Let us now spend some time dwelling on the presence of God in our hearts. Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmayedhi Rudrayatte Dakshinam Mukham Tenamam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine Consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. We begin today chapter 17. This chapter is called Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga. Shraddha is faith. We'll have more to discuss about this. Traya, three kinds of Shraddha. Distinction between three kinds of faith. That is the title of this chapter. Let's chant the first verse together. Arjuna Uvacha Ye Shastra Vidhimutsrujya Yajante Shraddhayanvitaha Tesham Nishtha Tuka Krishna Sattva Rajastamaha. Arjuna said, those who, setting aside the ordinances of the scriptures, perform sacrifices with faith, what is their status, O Krishna? Is it sattva, rajas, or tamas? Now, in the chapter that we just concluded, chapter 16, if you look at verse 23, the last but one verse, there Krishna says, he who, setting aside the ordinances of the scriptures, acts under the impulse of desire, attains neither perfection, nor happiness, nor the supreme goal. And that's why in the last verse of the previous chapter, Krishna said, therefore let the scripture be your authority in determining what we ought to do and what we ought not to do. Now, Arjuna's question, with which chapter 17 begins, refers to that concluding teaching of Krishna, that if the scripture has to be our guide in determining what should be done and what should not be done, then what about those people who don't follow the scriptures per se, but have faith? It's not that they don't believe in scriptures. They have faith in scriptures, but either due to laziness or carelessness, they don't so much worry about what the scriptures say, but they do things according to their faith. So what is the situation about those people who don't follow the scriptures but who have a lot of faith? What is their condition? That is Arjuna's question. The word that is used here for faith is Shraddha. We are translating it into English as the word faith, but as we have seen on many earlier occasions, no word in any language has an exact equivalent in any other language. And so, just like the English word faith, if you want to translate that word faith into any other language, it will have some words which have similar connotations, but it may not be exactly equivalent to faith. It may have something more or something less. So similarly, the Sanskrit word Shraddha is a little bit like that. It's not an exact equivalent of what we understand by the term faith, but it comes pretty close to it. If you want to describe what Shraddha means, and Krishna will go into it later in this chapter, Shraddha, Shankaracharya in his commentary calls it as astikya buddhihi, That is, a gut feeling, if you like, that God is real, that what the scriptures are saying is true. Now, I use the word gut feeling because it's not an intellectual conviction. Because an intellectual conviction would mean that you have reasoned it all out. But now we are dealing with entities that are beyond the grasp of the mind and the senses. So reason can take us up to a point, but it doesn't reach there. So you cannot really reason out the existence of God. But deep down, you know that God exists. Now that is what is Shraddha. Now if someone were to ask you, what proof do you have that there is God? And you don't have any proof. Have you had an experience of God? Well, not yet. When Ramakrishna was asked whether he has seen God, he could say, yes, I have seen God. Now when he said, I have seen God, when Narendranath, who later became Vivekananda, asked him that question, when Ramakrishna said, I have seen God, at that time it was not an answer based on Shraddha, because he'd actually seen God. He had experienced God. Now, at present we have not. And yet, if we see ourselves as believers, as people with faith, it means that we somehow know deep down that God exists, although we have no proof and we have not experienced God. So that's why I call it kind of a gut feeling. And we might say, or we might think, that this kind of faith is needed only in the religious field. Actually, no. We will be amazed to see that a lot of the things that we take for granted in our daily life are really based on just faith. Even when we are told that, well, you need oxygen for your survival. If there were no oxygen in this air, we would all die. And we believe it. We should technically say we have faith in it, because none of us can see that oxygen. How many of us have actually gone into a laboratory and taken this little bit of air and tested its composition and found how much % of oxygen there is? I doubt any one of us here. Now, that doesn't mean it's not true. We know that through experiments in science, it's possible to know the exact composition. We know that there is oxygen. So we know it's true, although we have not done the experiment ourselves. We don't have a direct experience of it, but we trust the words of the scientists before us who have gone and done it. So it's good to recognize it, because oftentimes we think about faith, it's about religion, and science is all about evidence and proof. But most of the things in life, we have not tested them ourselves, and many of these things we don't have any direct proof either. For that matter, how do you even know that there are even other planets or galaxies? None of us has seen it. So I'm not doubting their existence, but I'm just want to point out that those are not matters that we have tested for ourselves. And yet we like to think of themselves as a given, as a reality. So when people who take spiritual life seriously say that God exists, or say that the soul, the spirit exists, that should be given as much value or validity as we give to many of the things we assume to be real and true in the life around us. And Shraddha, therefore, is very important in spiritual life. In fact, without Shraddha, spiritual life cannot begin in a very real sense of the term. You might still be reading the Gita, you might still be visiting places of worship, but until this at least a little bit of the Shraddha enters into the heart, spiritual life cannot begin. Your practice of prayer, practice of worship practice of meditation will not become real until there is a little bit of the Shraddha. That is why there's an Upanishad called the Kathopanishad. It very begins with this very thing, that Shraddha entered into the heart of this little boy named Nachiketa. And the whole story then proceeds from then on. So if we look back at our own life and are able to find that at some stage in our life, suddenly, although we knew that there was such thing as religion, there was such thing as spirituality, many of us may not have started on our spiritual journey right from the time get-go, like we become aware of it. Sometimes different events in life, different situations in life, sometimes a point is reached in life when, as sometimes people say, I've gotten into spirituality. Well, getting into it, in somehow it becoming a little bit more real, more urgent than it was before. That happens when this Shraddha enters into the heart. So that is the great value. And so, as Krishna will point out later, that what is the measure of me as a human being? In spiritual life, where do I stand in spiritual life? And where I stand depends on the level of Shraddha in my heart. So this is a very, very important subject. And it's very interesting, as you will see. So that's Arjuna's question. That what about those people who believe in scriptures, but who don't really follow them? And probably I would think that might include a majority of us who see ourselves as serious about spiritual life, but either we don't have time to study scriptures, or we don't have too much interest in it, or we don't have so much access to it, or we are just lazy. One or more of these reasons, we may not go deep enough into the scripture to find out what the scripture wants me to do. And yet we are people of faith. So what is the condition of people who have faith but who don't follow the scriptures? Now, this is what Krishna replies, verse number 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Trividha Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Sa Svabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Chetitam Shruno. The Blessed Lord said, threefold is that natural faith of embodied beings, Sattvic, Rajasika, or Tamasika. Hear about it. So Krishna points out that there are three kinds of faith. Our faith manifests in our lives in three different ways, in three different forms. And as we know, these are the three called gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. This idea of the gunas with its three attributes of sattva, rajas, tamas has come earlier in the Gita. So he's reiterating that everything around us is a product of matter, and every material particle, every material entity is charged, as it were, by one or the other of these three attributes. And what these three attributes are will be discussed later. Broadly, we know that the general characteristic of the three attributes, sattva is considered the balancing, the equilibrium, the one that is most suited for spiritual progress. The attribute of rajas is often associated with activity, with desire, with ambition, and the attribute of tamas is associated with inertia, violence, harm. So one is hyperactivity, the other is total inertia. And sattva is the balance between the two. So sattva is seen as a state of light. You might also remember the story that Ramakrishna told oftentimes to his disciples. The story of a wealthy person who was going on a journey long, long back, and he had to pass through a forest on his way. And then, as it so happened in those days, these things happened only in a forest. Nowadays, it can happen in broad daylight in cities, people cheating and so on. So this wealthy person was going in a forest, was caught by three thieves. They, of course, took away all his valuables, and then one of them said, "Well, now we have got everything. I'll just kill him." That kind of makes sense. If you don't kill him, what if he goes to the cops and then complains? Then we might get caught. So best is to destroy the evidence, and so kill him. The second one said, "Oh no, that's really not necessary. Let's just tie him up to a tree, so he can't go. And by the time he eventually becomes free, we will be completely out of reach of the law enforcement." And so they just tie him up to a tree, and hoping that maybe if some wild animal can come and do the job for them, instead of they having to kill this person. So they go and they disappear. And after a while, after about half an hour or hour later, one of the thieves, the third thief, comes back and apologizes to this person and says, "See, I'm really sorry that these other two guys wanted to kill you or tie you up." So he just frees this person and says, "Come, you might get lost into this forest. I'll show you the way out." So takes him to the edge of the forest. And this man is so grateful. Although the third guy was also a thief, he didn't return didn't give back his valuables, but showed him the way out. But the third person is this wealthy person is so grateful to that third thief for having just saved his life. So he said, "I'm so grateful to you. Why don't you come with me? Or give me your business card if you want something." And of course, the thief says, "No, I really can't go out because I'm a thief. And the police are on lookout for me. So I can't go, but I can show you the way. Take that way and go." And this story is often told to illustrate the function of the three gunas. So that thief who said, "Let's just kill him," that is what tamasika guna does. The other thief who said, "No, let's just tie him up," and that is what rajas does. It ties us up. It creates a bondage for us into this world. And a third thief who came and freed this person and showed him the way to freedom, that is sattva. Now, sattva is also a thief, remember. In other words, sattva cannot accompany us right till the end. It's also an attribute of the material world, but it can point us towards freedom. So of these three qualities, we need to find a way to cultivate more of sattva within us and try to eliminate tamas and rajas, because it is the sattva that will show us the way to freedom. So that is what Krishna is saying here, that this faith that is present in the hearts of people is of three kinds: sattvika, rajasika, and tamasika. And hear about it. And now he will describe these three gunas. Verse 3. Sattvanurupa sarvasya shraddha bhavati bharata shraddhamayoyam purusho yo yat shraddhassa eva saha. The faith of each person is according to his stuff, O descendant of Bharata. A man is made up of his faith. He verily is what his faith is. So you can see, as I said before, where I stand in spiritual life is directly related to what the level of faith in my heart is. Once a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna said to him, oh, I, um, something to the effect, don't remember the exact words. He said something that, oh, all that I want is faith. Once I have faith, and then Ramakrishna said, oh, once you have faith, half the battle is over. So one of the greatest challenges in spiritual life is not so much of all these, sometimes we make such a big deal about meditation and being adept in meditation and so on. That's true, that's important. But even before we go there, what we need to strengthen in our heart is the level of our Shraddha. Because when the Shraddha becomes strong, everything becomes smooth. The quality of our prayer improves, the quality of our meditation improves. So we need to focus on Shraddha. And that is why we need to focus on what kind of Shraddha we have. And that's what Krishna means when he says that the faith of each person is according to his stuff. Now, what does this stuff mean? What the scripture says this, that we have in our mind these subtle impressions of all the actions that we do, physical and mental actions. So every action that we do, every thought that we think, leaves an impression on the mind. And that impression in Sanskrit is called samskara. Now, some of these samskaras are the results of positive, healthy actions and thoughts. Some of these samskaras are the result of negative, weakening actions and thoughts. And depending on the kind of samskara we have, it generates the desires according to the samskara. It's a little bit like the more of strong, positive, healthy mental impressions I have, they will produce similar desires. So the desires that spring in my heart will also therefore be strong, healthy, and positive. On the other hand, the number of negative, weakening impression that I have will produce negative, weakening desires. And we know both kinds of desires spring in our heart. There are good, healthy desires, a desire to say, from tomorrow onwards, I'm going to eat only healthy food. I'm going to take regular exercise. I'm going to meditate every day. Now that's a desire. I would like to do this. Now this desire comes because there are these strong positive samskaras in my heart. On the other hand, it's like, oh, I just want to go and now kill somebody. That's just too much. But if at all such thoughts come in my mind, or if I feel like cheating, if I feel like lying, if I feel like doing something, whatever it is that we consider as not good, not healthy, then that is the result of this unhealthy samskara. So, right now, in the mind, we have this kind of a mixture. There are positive, healthy samskaras, negative, weakening samskaras. At any given moment, the character of a person is directly related to the sum total of the samskaras. So if a person has, say, 90% good, healthy samskaras and 10% weakening, unhealthy, negative samskaras, we say a good person. If you flip the proportion, we say bad person. So now, these samskaras are not a fixed entity, clearly, because we are continually doing actions. So this it's a little bit like now there is so much talk about immigration and all of that. So the demographic of any place would depend on what kind of people are there. Now, if you just built a wall all around, then of course the demographic is not going to change. The people who are there will be, and the people who are outside won't be able to come in, and people who are there inside probably one day will die. But if you have a possibility of people within going out, people out coming in, then the demographic is going to change. Now, the samskaras are a little bit like that. So we now think about the samskaras as the present population of this state, if you like. Now, every time I think a good thought, every time I do a good action, I'm introducing a new immigrant samskara in my mind, which is positive and healthy. Then every time I try to think something negative, or try to do something which is weakening, I'm allowing a kind of a dangerous immigrant inside. Now, depending on what kind of actions and thoughts that I think, the demographic inside is going to change. And since we are continuously doing actions, at any given moment, who I am depends on the relative proportion of the positive and negative samskaras in my heart. Now, when he says here, according to this person's stuff, so what is meant is this. At the moment, so when we say, okay, let's think about it this way. So we know that when we die, earlier whenever I would refer to, I used to say if we die. Nowadays I just say when we die. So death is of this gross body. The mind doesn't die. The mind that we have now is the mind that has been with us all through in our past lives as well, and will be with us in our future lives as well. And mind is the one which holds all these samskaras. So at the moment of death, whatever is the demographic of my mind, the samskara demographic, whichever is the dominant samskara, dominant trait of the samskara, that will be my stuff in the future birth. So although we might like to think, when all newborn babies, they are so wonderful. Everyone loves a baby. It's only when the baby grows up a little bit and then we begin to see things that we didn't see them in a newborn baby. So now these things didn't come flying from the atmosphere. They were already there in the mind of that baby. And that's what makes one person different from another. The different tendencies in our heart as because of the different samskara demographic in the mind. Now, when Krishna says according to his stuff means, now what kind of a demographic am I born with? What kind of a demographic is a little baby born with? And the answer to that is, whatever was the dominant characteristic of that baby in the previous birth, at the moment of death, that becomes the stuff, that becomes the nature of this baby at the time of birth. But as I said, it's not a fixed entity. Depending on whatever actions then this person does as he or she grows up, that stuff will change. So that's the meaning of the faith of each person is according to his stuff. So don't think that this stuff is a fixed quantity. So we don't have any excuse really. We can't say that, what to do? I'm just like this. This is my samskara. So I as if I don't have any option. There was an article sometime back in the Atlantic, some of you may have seen it, questioning whether there is any such thing as free will. Whether the idea of free will itself may be an illusion of the mind. So there is this school of thought called determinism. And now with people doing a lot of research in neuroscience, there is a great temptation to reduce everything to just this electrochemical activities happening in the brain. And in fact, it's becoming quite popular in the times in which we live. And it's being also discussed. The points are being brought up even in the criminal justice system. When a person does some criminal act, how much responsible is that person if it was just that the brain chemistry made that person do it, as if the person had no real choice. And we know that this sometimes does happen when things go wrong, especially in brain surgeries and things like that. People sometimes show very different characteristics than the one they had before the surgery. And so there is some kind of an argument can be made that everything is really just programmed in the brain, including the idea that we are free. That also is probably a program. Now, that's one way of thinking. Now, what some researchers have done is, because this is really seems to be kind of a non-measurable kind of a discussion. How are we to know what is real, what is true? But they have found ways to figure this out through different tests. For instance, they had a test group, and they gave some people a passage which showed that, which said that people are not responsible for their actions, that everything is just a brain chemistry. And the other one was a neutral group which said that no, there is a responsibility. And then these people were given certain set of tasks to do. And what was found was this, that those people who truly believe that they are not responsible, it's just the brain chemistry is making them do, there was a much greater tendency in such people to do something which they normally wouldn't have done, to do something which was transgressive, to do something which they knew that they wouldn't be held responsible for. And people who took the responsibility were more careful in the choices they made. So there is some experimental evidence to show that the sense of responsibility makes us more careful about what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And when that sense of responsibility is taken away, people can do things that they normally wouldn't have done. So Shraddha is the measure of at any given moment of this samskara demographic. But as I said, according to the Gita way of thinking, this is not a fixed quantity. So we are responsible. We can change the samskara. We cannot change the result of karma, but we can change the samskara. It's a little bit like this. If the example that's often given is, so if I have a gun in my hand, and if I've already pulled the trigger, I cannot, once the bullet is out, I cannot stop that bullet. It's already out. But what about the more bullets that I have with me? I still have control over the bullets which have not been fired, but not over the bullet which already been fired. So the action which I have already committed, the results of those actions, I do not have any control. It will come because that's already been done. But my future actions, I have control. I cannot say that my future way of thinking, my future actions, they are just programmed. Because as this theory of samskara shows, is that we can change our samskaras with effort. That's where the willpower comes in. That's where one's freedom comes in. The ability to do or not to do. One of the reasons that we think we are evolved, more evolved than some of the other living creatures in this world, whom we looked upon as somehow lower down in the evolutionary ladder, is because we think that as human beings, we are capable of pausing and discerning whether something should be done or not done. That those creatures which we see as below the evolutionary ladder generally don't make that judgment call. If they are hungry and if there is food in front of them, there are exceptions, but mostly, if there is food in front of them, they are guided more by their biological instincts and drives. They just go and eat it. But a human being, even if the human being is hungry and if there is food, the human being has the power, the will to say no, even if the food is there and I'm hungry, which we think that some of the other creatures don't have, which is why human beings are said to be higher. Now, if I don't exercise that control, if I don't have that power of the will to decide to do what I should do and not do what I should not do, then there is not much difference from me and then these other creatures who I see as lower creatures. So that's why the distinction between human beings and animals and plants, it's not a difference in kind, it's a difference in degree, according to Gita. So please keep this in mind. The faith of each person is according to his stuff, means that's what is determined by the dominant tendency at the time of death of my previous birth. But this tendency now, I have the ability to change. A person is made up of his faith. He verily is what his faith is. So this is important. And as we will go further, then Krishna will describe that how this three kinds of faith, sattvic, rajasika, and tamasika, how it manifests in the kind of food that we eat, in the kind of spiritual practices that we do, in the kind of deities that we worship, and so on. So pretty much everything that we do is shaped by the difference in this faith. That is why we know some people like very hot, pungent food. Some people like healthy food. And some people like just junk food. Now, what is it that makes some people like this, some people like that? Now, all of these differences can be explained in terms of the three gunas. And that is what Krishna will describe here. So we will stop here with verse 3. Next week when we meet, we'll begin with verse number 4. If you have any comments, questions, thoughts, ideas.
Thank you for the lecture, Swamiji. So my name is Sriram, and so initially you were mentioning about faith, and in my mind, I mean, based on some minimal reading of the Gita I've done in the past, I think the faith you were initially talking about might be likened to how Arjuna, when he's at the battlefield about to battle his brothers, Krishna tells him that you have to have faith to do battle now. So that's having perhaps faith in yourself to take action at that moment. But can you comment on what the Gita says about having faith in others? Because on the one hand, you can say that part of human nature is to have faith in yourself, but there's also a lyric of a song that I know that says, or that I've heard once, that's a few times, that says something along the lines of, "Tell me you love me. If you don't, then lie." So sometimes we have to
say that again. I couldn't.
The lyric is it's a song by Coldplay, but it says, "Tell me you love me. If you don't, then lie."
Okay.
So sometimes we have to have faith in other people too, and that's part of human nature too, right? So what does the Gita say about that?
Well, I don't know exactly what you mean by having faith in other people. What we have got to recognize, what the Gita says is that we don't have any control over what other people will say or do or react. That's their freedom. So just as other people exercise their freedom in reacting the way that they want to react, where my freedom lies in only how I can react to how they react. So having faith in them, I really don't know what you exactly mean by it. But yes, what I could say is, not being too cynical doesn't help either. So best is, I would think, from a spiritual standpoint, a good spiritual practice is to try to see goodness everywhere. There are two ways of going about in life. That you go about in life and see that people are essentially good. Human beings are good. And we know, of course, from experience that sometimes people don't necessarily behave the way good people behave. So be aware of the fact that there is good and bad in the world around us. But when you go about, generally make an effort to see goodness everywhere, in people and in the world. But be careful enough, that's where your own freedom comes in, to not get exploited or to not get caught on the wrong foot. That is a better way to go about than to go about thinking people are bad. People are bad unless and until they prove to me they are good. That is not so much helpful in spiritual life. It's so much more better to, so that's how I hear you say have faith in others. So think that people are good, but don't be too surprised if you find that they were not as good as you thought, because there is good and bad everywhere. But from the perspective of our own spiritual health, it's good to try to see goodness everywhere. Because if God is present in the hearts of everyone, then there is a seed of goodness in the heart of everyone too. But that, as I said, that doesn't mean that we lose the sense of proportion. As Ramakrishna used to say, there is God present even in lions and tigers. We just can't go and hug them, you see. So that's the idea.
So my question is about the relationship between faith and free will. So gut feeling kind of implies something before reason, like something beyond your control that comes to you. So is faith within your control, according to the Gita?
Yes, good question. So faith doesn't necessarily mean faith only in some entity apart from you. In fact, first we must have faith in our own selves. In fact, Swami Vivekananda said, first have faith in yourself and then in God. Because my faith in God is not of much value if I don't have faith in myself. It's a little bit like someone saying, oh, I can do this, I can do that, this is who I am. And in the end saying, but I tell lies now and then. Then once I say I tell lies now and then, so all of that I have said before completely becomes valueless because, well, that could be a lie. So similarly, my faith in God will become totally valueless if I don't even have faith in myself. What is the value of the faith of a person who doesn't have faith in oneself? And so what Swamiji said, Swami Vivekananda said was that first I must have faith in myself. And yes, so faith in yourself includes the faith that you can make choices of your will. Faith that I will try to do the best I can in doing what is right, avoiding what is wrong. So the idea of faith and free will therefore are not mutually exclusive. Okay? Yeah.
Maharaj, in the first sloka, they're talking about somebody having Shraddha, but they either do not know the scriptures or they are not educated enough to have the knowledge. Are these people considered to be like in Purva Mimamsa?
No, not necessarily. He's not discussing it from a philosophical point of view. It's a question by Arjuna, and Arjuna was not a scholar or anything. He's just saying that because Krishna said earlier, let scripture be your guide. From scripture you will know what should be done and what shouldn't be done. So Arjuna's question is, but what about those people who have faith? Who have faith in not just faith in God, faith in scripture as well. Have faith that what the scripture says is the right thing to do. But they just don't want to read the scripture. Or are too lazy. Or like, sometimes we do that. Yeah. Sometimes what we do is, for instance, it's a little bit like worship. Now, some of you who come for the worship here, you can see that if you want to do worship in a very scriptural way, then you need to know the procedure, you need to know the mantras, you need to know how to do it. And all of us may not have had the chance or the opportunity or the time to learn this puja in a very systematic way. But we have faith. We know that the puja is good, helpful. And so what about us who do not know the technicalities of doing puja? We have not studied it. Although we believe in it, we have faith in it, but we have a lot of faith. And so if I just do puja with faith, without referring to what the scripture says, what is my situation? What is my position? Yeah. That was Arjuna's question. But Krishna is saying is, Krishna actually appreciated that question. Yes, because the faith is important. But how I do the worship, who I worship, what kind of mind is there at the time of worship, all that will be determined by whether my mind is sattvic, rajasic or tamasic. So if I'm sattvic, my worship will take one kind of form. When I think of God, I will think of God in one way. If I'm rajasic, my worship will take a different kind of form. Even my thinking of God will be very different, and so on. So my thinking, my actions in terms of the food that I eat, in the terms of the food that I offer during worship, in the kind of charity that I do, all of these things will be different depending on whether I'm sattvic, rajasic or tamasic. Yeah. That's the idea. Thank you. Yeah.
Swamiji, my understanding of the term Advaita Vedanta is non-duality. So, when Ramakrishna experienced God, for him the duality fell away. Correct? The duality fell away when Ramakrishna saw God.
Duality is?
It fell away. It was the world, he saw the world non-dually. So, the division between right and wrong, and between rajas, tamas and sattva, all those disappeared. And my understanding is that the whole point of this practice, of spiritual practice, is to be in that state. So why do we divide what is not to be divided into right and wrong if God is present in everyone and everything, and if as praying to God, I'm God, offering God to God. Why do we make these divisions between right, wrong?
Well, as long as this question comes, we need to keep on dividing it. It's a little bit like this. It's a little bit like this. When Ramakrishna is in Samadhi, when you are experiencing oneness, there is no good or bad. Everything is one. You don't even have to be in Samadhi for that matter. Even you are in deep sleep, there is no good and bad. You are beyond good and bad in the state of deep sleep. But then when you are awake, you cannot say I'm beyond, because you are experiencing a different world than when you are fast asleep. So, yes, non-duality means a state which is, it's not really a state, but it's actually a being, a presence which is beyond everything. Now, when you are in that state, this question itself won't come. As long as this question comes, you have to deal with it. That time, good is good, bad is bad. Good doesn't become bad, bad doesn't become good. So that's the idea. So as long as I see myself as there's anything apart from me, so there is already, you are in duality. You are experiencing duality. And if you are experiencing duality, good, bad, light, dark, all the polarities will come along with that duality. When you transcend the duality yourself, everything goes away. Here.
Swamiji, the question is similar to him, what he asked. Actually, all of us, we have God inside our heart, right? So, still, how can, why we do, why would we have Rajasic, Tamasic, and Sattvic? We all, because God is already inside everybody.
Well,
and He's controlling everything. So then, why we will do all this bad
right.
job?
God is inside us. God knows it. We don't know it. And that's why we are doing it. If you know God is inside you, then you won't do anything which shouldn't be done. Do you know it?
I mean, that's the Gita says.
No. That's what I was speaking earlier about determinism. It's okay to kind of read in the books and say, oh, God is controlling me. Then I don't have to then worry about it. I can go and do whatever I want. And well, I read in the Gita, God is doing everything. That doesn't work. Because at every moment, every thought that you think, every action that you do, if you are aware God is doing it, then you will not do anything that you will regret. You will not do anything that will take you away from your own self. But we cannot forget about it and then say, well, I'm not responsible. That's the idea. Yeah.
Swamiji, every rebirth, we believe in rebirth, new life comes, and we bring some samskara with that. And faith sound like it's a gut feelings. It's not like you are bringing with yourself. And some people have faith on something and the same thing, other people, they don't have it. Can you cultivate faith or gut feelings? Because other samskara, you can change it. You can kind of nurture some samskara you want to. But can we do Shraddha or Bhakti? Can we cultivate within us?
Yes, the truth is this. The seed of Shraddha is in the heart of everyone. Because Shraddha is a part of this divine reality. So that is there. Now, whoever is able to nurture that seed, take care of that seed, water it well, and make it grow, it will develop in them. But that's a kind of an imperishable seed. I may ignore that seed for, say, 1,000 births. It doesn't die. At some point, I might say, oh, here is the seed, let me water it, and then it grows. So it's not that we are creating Shraddha in our heart. It's not like floating about and we have to put it inside. The seed is already there. So we need to then simply take care of it.
Swamiji, I have a question from a householder. So when children have faith, for example, they may have faith in Hanuman. They have faith today in Hanuman if they're young because they may see him as a superhero. But as they grow up, they mature, they realize he's not a superhero.
He is.
How do you maintain the Shraddha when the mental images change and when children grow up and they start seeing?
I think seen in the right way, I mean, I still think Hanuman is a superhero. But I think our notion, our conceptualization of a superhero will change. When I'm little, I might really think, oh, now Hanuman will come and, whatever way I think of a Superman, but But as we grow and as we evolve, the way we think of these concepts will change. In the case of Swami Vivekananda himself, he was a great devotee of Hanuman. So he said when he was little, and because he had heard that Hanuman liked bananas, so he said he would wander about in a banana grove when he was little, hoping that Hanuman might come there and he will be able to see him. Now, and yet, even when he much later in life, he speaks in glowing terms about Hanuman. Obviously, that time he wasn't looking for Hanuman in a banana grove. But thinking of Hanuman as a superhero, that didn't change. Only the concept of the superhero itself changed. Yeah. Okay, so we stop here today. And next week we will begin with verse number 4. Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. So our subject on Sunday for satsang will be, do you remember? Remember to vote, by the way, next week. So do you remember would be with the subject. Of course, it'll be more than asking you whether you are voted or not on Sunday, but that's the topic for next Sunday. Also, remember to adjust your clocks on Saturday night. Otherwise, if you fall back, that means, you might come after the lecture is over if you don't adjust your clocks. So remember to do that. And next Wednesday we'll continue with the study. Tuesday and Saturday our Arati and meditation will also continue as usual. So let's conclude with a prayer on page 3. May the Divine Being, who is the Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, the Great Spirit of the Native Americans, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May we be granted strength, freedom, and clear understanding. May we learn to see God in our own hearts and in everyone around us. May God bless us all and fill our hearts with gratitude, grace, and love. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto you.